Hey, real estate investors, it's Reed Swizer with Estero Investments. And got a special guest today. I got Mike Lyons from Lyons Real Estate. And he's our preferred property manager on all of our projects in Southwest Florida. And we just wanted to get together today. I'm getting a lot of questions about, hey, what's going to happen in 2023 moving forward? What's happened so far? Obviously we had Ian back in September. What's kind of been the aftermath of the storm. So first of all, just want to say welcome, Mike, and I appreciate you being here.
Thank you. No, I appreciate it. Yeah, happy to be here and happy to discuss this stuff. Is what I deal with every day. The rental side of it anyway. So yeah.
You've been doing this for a couple of minutes too.
I'd say, yeah, I've got about 20 years doing this. So seen a bunch of hurricanes and although nothing as big as this hurricane was unlike anything I've ever seen. Been here my whole life, and that was intense, man. But
it's crazy. You started in this business when you were 9. That's unbelievable.
Yeah, 9.5, but right. Yeah, I was, yeah. No, you're right. No, I've been here a long time. Done it for a long time.
So jumping right into it, let's talk about kind of, what happened post-storm. I know you and I were literally talking the day after the storm, what we thought might happen versus what happened. And let's kind of recap, what's been going on so far in 23.
Well, one thing I'll mention too, specifically about the new builds that you guys are doing that I was impressed with is, gosh, they saw almost no damage on and they said it was a Cat 4, like the news did. That was Cat 5. I mean, the gusts where I live were over 180. I mean, that's a pretty powerful storm. And on the newer construction, I was just shocked at how some roof issues here and there, minor. I mean, never made and didn't have any major, knock on wood, issues at all with these new construction homes. That was awesome to see. And yeah, I thought we would have been a lot more devastated than we were. Thankfully, we weren't. But if you were on an outer island, which we're not, we're not building investment property out there, but they were obviously tore up. But like Cape Coral, Northport, Port Charlotte, a lot of these locations, Rotunda, where they've got, the storm went right through. Mm-hmm. New construction did awesome. And again, minor stuff. If you had a new tree that was just planted 2 months ago, it's probably laying on its side. Yeah. But nothing, nothing devastating, which was shocking because I really thought, man, we're gonna have tons of damage. Again, I had damage on a lot of property, but not the new construction held up. I was shocked. It was awesome. So the codes they make you build to, they work because didn't have any
reason why it costs more to build here. There just is.
And there was no flooding done. Like I know flooding was. If you watch the news from when you were outside of Florida, you thought all of South Florida was underwater. And again, there was areas that were devastated and were flooded, but not one of these new construction homes that I manage had any water in it. I mean, it was awesome. It was really awesome.
The only real damage we had were homes under construction that just had the blocks up and there was no tie beam because there was nothing to hold the structure together. No tie beam, no trusses. So the blocks blew down. We had to get in there, clean up the blocks and just rebuild the blocks. So at the end of the day, it was a builder's risk insurance claim. And, that's why you buy builder's risk insurance.
Sure. No, that's great. But on the ones that were completed that I handled,
oh yeah,
it was great. So yeah, aftermath was a weird world for a few months after the storm. But even now, there's a lot of not older, but not new build homes that've got tarps on them. I mean, that still exists to a certain extent in some places, but that'll be for a while like that. I think while people are dealing with insurance and stuff. But no, overall, we fared really well, shockingly, after how bad that storm was.
So. How's 23 been for you over at your group? Not just with our properties, but in general.
So the rental market, we always have a really good rental market in Southwest Florida, always have. But since the first of the year, it always gets a little quiet during the Christmas and Thanksgiving. That's a little quieter time. But man, a week into the first part of the year, and on new and old, any type of property we have vacancy wise, it's going nuts. So placing tenants, getting multiple applications, and I've shared in other videos, but we're sticklers on the application process. To me, that's the most important part of it. I mean, you can buy a great asset, but you put a unqualified tenant in the property and there goes your cash flow. It's just a nightmare. So we put a lot of emphasis on that, but we've had huge activity with really good qualifying tenants. As strong as a rental market as I've seen in 20 years of doing it, right now, I would say that's what we have. I mean, it's been fantastic. It really has been.
So as a property COs and you're taking it over, what is there a lag time between typically CO or when the investor closes on it and somebody either A, you get approved application, or B, they're moving in? Or what are we talking about? A few days, a couple weeks?
Worst case scenario in what we do, and I get this question a lot. So they'll ask, when do you start advertising? And because COs, we have no control over, and really you as a builder don't either. It's really the county that you've got to wait on. I've told all the investors, hey, we'll jump on it as soon as the CO takes place, but we can't advertise, hey, rent this house. We just don't know when, because it could be, weeks, it could be whenever the actual date happens. So, but once the CO takes place, a few things we've done to make it get it rented as soon as possible is we'll start pushing people in the direction of that property. Hey, this one's coming up. We just don't know the date, and we'll reach back out to them and circle back if they're still looking, if they haven't found something. But worst case scenario, you're looking at 3 to 4 weeks of getting someone moving in. That's probably worst case scenario. Because we put it right in the market. I mean, it's not like they can go in and critique the property. It's brand new. So if they like the location, it's a done deal. And if they qualify, of course, the qualifying part we handle, but that's super important. But 3 to 4 weeks, someone's moving in. So it's pretty.
So rental rates and demand are holding up really strong.
Yep. And I thought there'd be a jump, thinking, not knowing the full picture. Of course, you watch the news and you'll see how devastated the beaches were in some other locations, and you think there'd be a lot of displaced people looking for rentals. And there really wasn't as many as I thought. I really haven't had. I mean, we've had some, but not tons of inquiries of people that were displaced from the storm. And I thought there'd be a kind of a surge in rent rates. And I haven't seen that. I've seen it's as steady as it was before. I mean, getting top dollar for these properties, but I thought we'd see even higher. And the only time I've seen that is a contractor coming into the area, attempting to stay here for 6 months, and they'll pay a premium. They might pay you a few $100s more a month, but you're going to have a vacancy in 6 to 8 months. Okay. And for me as an investor, and I look at this from the standpoint of, I own several rental properties myself personally. And so I look at it, what I want as an investor, I want cash flow long-term with low turnover with a good tenant. So I don't want to.
Even though you might get a couple $100s more per month when you turn that property over, if there's a gap, or, if it's an out-of-state contractor, you might have to do some fixing of the property, and that could eat up that extra cash flow.
Yep. And again, ideally they leave in good shape, but even then the turnover, there's costs with turnover. There's always costs.
Yeah, there's always
something, and it's never works out exactly how you plan it. So I've not, unless they'll give me at least a year. I've only done it for a couple of people thus far, contractor wise, that they'll pay a little bit higher rate to move in. Otherwise, we're still trying to do the typical typical tenant in our area, hardworking, blue collar, who plans on being here for a while. And we're seeing still 3 to 4 years at minimum, generally speaking. Of course, there's situations where that's not the case, but generally speaking, 3 to 4 years of people staying in properties, and sometimes even much more than that. But on average, 3 to 4 years, which is great. I prefer that over a 6-month tenant at a little higher rate. Longevity.
I know some people that own seasonals, and they've been renting to contractors, the seasonals, but the seasonal people are set up for that. That's what they do.
Yep.
And I've seen several of my friends that own seasonal properties, and they've put people in there, and they're paying a pretty hefty premium, but they're set up for that. They're furnished. They've got a coffee pot. They've got everything that everybody needs. Right. Not that you have a crystal ball, but if you had to look at the rest of 23, what are you seeing?
So, I don't see any change in the demand. And I mentioned that as, still in February, which we are now, I was in shorts all day today. So that's not going to change. And you go up north and, the snow, people still love coming here. I thought it would maybe affect our tourism during, season this year. And if you go on the roads right now, every license plate from every state in the United States is here. Roads are, real busy. And so I don't see any change in the market in a negative way. I see us continuing on being really, pushing forward. There's still, like, in the areas that you guys are building in, for example, Charlotte County, in these Northport, those locations, there's so much to still build. Mm-hmm. And most all that there is brand new already. So nothing but growth can take place, in my opinion. And that's what's happening. And if you compare our market to a lot of other markets outside, our area, people that are leaving California, New York, some of these locations, we're priced really inexpensive still, comparatively speaking. And you got some retiree coming down here that's got a great set income. They can live in sunny Florida year round and not deal with snow and go to the beaches that are 20 minutes away. There's huge demand for that still. So I don't see any, again, I don't have a crystal ball, but I see no reason that would make me think that anything would change. And it's not like you can throw out 2,000 properties each month of new construction on the, you can't. I mean, it just takes too long to build.
Right.
So you're not gonna be able to get someone come in, seeing the opportunity and building thousands of houses. It's just not gonna happen. There's not,
We're not going to see a glut of inventory like what we saw in 06 and 07, just because it's just much more difficult to build today than it was, 16, 17 years ago when all that went down. So
agreed. And not only that the codes have changed, there's more to do, and not to knock the county and the city, I know they got a lot going on, but they're not quick to getting.
Oh,
you need to get
a lot of
permits.
inspectors are, yeah, they're doing roof inspections and drywall inspections on houses that need to be rebuilt. And they told us literally the day after the storm, they were going to prioritize the rebuilds. They were not going to prioritize the new construction.
Okay. So with that, how would an influx of a bunch of property be put on the market? It's impossible.
Yeah.
So we have huge demand. If you guys are,
Supply will be a little bit limited.
what's that?
And supply will be just a little bit limited.
Yeah, the supply will be limited, and then also even contractors, they're going after the insurance work, for lack of a better term. A lot of these contractors are. So again, going back to, and I don't knock them for it. They're gonna make a lot of money, but they're gonna do real well. But that will not increase the production on new properties being put on the market. So I see no reason why it won't continue. I mean, it's been insane. We list a property and we get more leads than we can handle in most cases. If I had 100 rentals brought to me right now that were vacant, I would have no problem placing tenants in them within a few weeks. It's insane right now. The demand's amazing. So with good paying, good qualified, good credit score, good jobs, I mean, like they're really good tenants. Again, we have to sift through not so good tenants to get them, but there's an abundance of them. So I mean, if I had the inventory right now, I would. We've rented most all that we have, and my office handles several hundred units in the county, and in Sarasota, Charlotte, and Lee County. I mean, we have very few vacancies. So I mean, I'm talking several hundred throughout those counties. So.
Well, I think to finish it off, I mean, we kind of gone through the market, what's happened, where we think that we're going.
Yeah.
Just the last thing, give us the 2-minute elevator pitch on why your company, what do you guys do well, and what can investors expect from you and your team?
Yeah, well, thank you. No, I appreciate even the opportunity to discuss it. So I don't want to knock my competitors. I'm sure there's companies that do a good job too. I wouldn't say we're the only ones that do a good job. I think that what makes us different is I look at this as an owner of a rental property, not as a salary paid property manager that doesn't own rental property. So my approach, I think, is different in a lot of ways. And the biggest complaints I hear with other companies are communication, getting able to get hold of somebody at the office, meaning why they change over. They can't communicate with other offices, so we get a lot of business that way. The costs associated with rehabs and repairs are so high. And that's probably the two biggest that I see. And what I've tried to do as a company is really find out what my competition's weaknesses are and make them our strengths. So every owner and investor I work with has my personal cell phone. Call me whenever. I have office hours on my phone, like my voicemail, but that's just a ploy to not have tenants call me at 9 o'clock at night about a light bulb that's out. So, but no, I talk to investors all the time. They can call or text me whenever, and I want that to me, communication is super important for both parties to understand what the expectations are, what they're trying to accomplish, which is huge, and then the cost aspect of it. Now, if you're buying new construction, you have warranty that should be covered for a while, but at some point down the road, you're going to have repairs and costs. And to keep those costs down, we put a lot on the tenant. We have our tenants review the leases, and in our leases, it indicates you're expected to do these things if you rent the property out. Also, you're expected to do the following when you move out. That's in the lease from the get-go. So the expectation's set. And I've had tenants say, I'm not signing this. I'm not doing that. You can have your deposit back and you're not moving in. We don't want you as a tenant if you're not willing to do it. That's fine. But we put a lot back on the tenant because there's a lot of minor things that I think a lot of management companies will jump to send a contractor out to fix when it's a tenant responsibility. And we've got right now, if you're even remotely handy, if you have YouTube, there's a lot of, you can fix anything, like minor things, like, you really can. And if something happens, we have videos on my website of like repair videos, how-to videos, simple stuff. So again, to keep down the cost for investors, you want your profits as high as you can be and your cost as low. That's just typical investing. So that's how we approach it. So if a tenant calls in and says, I have this issue, we're not, okay, we'll call a contractor. We're like, well, have you done this? Have you checked this? You know, if I don't have power in a room, will you check the GFI outlet or your breaker? I mean, what have you done to try to fix it yourself? We're not real quick to send somebody out. And then if we send somebody out for something simple and we recognize it's a tenant responsibility, they said they did, they handled it, they didn't, it's in the lease, we charge the tenant and they reimburse the owner. And then one more thing about expenses, and that's probably my pitch is, you know, communication, keep your expenses down and qualified tenants. But a lot of companies too, a lot of management companies will charge a fee above and beyond what the management fee is, meaning a percentage above the repair costs. So they'll tack on 10 or 15, 20% on a repair to your property, which to me is criminal. But that incentivizes management companies to have
Send somebody out every time.
fees. They will say they're going to every time they're going to, hey, because I'm making money. So we avoid that at all costs. I think that's a slap in the face to an investor. And again, not to knock my competition, but if they're doing that, I think it's wrong. And keep costs down. I have 3 fees. I have a renewal fee, $100 per year. I do a 5% management fee on new construction, which is, I mean, once you're locked in at new construction, I'll keep that forever. I'll hold that forever. And we charge a half month's rent on tenant placement. There's no company in any of those counties that are that low. I mean, so costs and what you're going to see in your bank account each month will not be higher with any other company. That much I can promise. So it's
Well, that's great. And I can say that, you know, we made a change over to Mike about 18 months ago from a big national property management company. And I've got a few of my clients that are still with them, and a lot of them have switched over to Mike because of issues. And I'm not going to name any names, but it's somebody probably most investors have heard of. And, you know, they just didn't do, they have this huge infrastructure and they didn't do as good a job as what you're doing. So, I mean, it just kind of, the proof is in the pudding.
Yeah, no, thank you. And I think, again, I'll go back to any investor I work with. And if you have investors that want to talk to me that end up not using me, I'm fine with that. If they have questions about the rental market, feel free to reach out. I mean, I'd happy to talk to them and give them my 2 cents on what I'm seeing and what's going on. But they all have my cell phone. They want to talk to me. I'll always get back to them immediately. And to me, that's the difference. And it's kind of sad. The difference in my business to look good at doing it is return phone calls, return emails, and do what you say you're going to do. That's it. Which is sad that that's all you got to do to look good in the business.
Kind of like golden rule type stuff.
Yeah, I mean, just do the minimum. Do what you say you're going to do, and return phone calls and text messages, and you look like a pro. But there's that's kind of that sums it up. So, yeah.
Well, hey, I just want to thank you very much for coming out. To everybody out there, again, this is Mike Lyons and the Reed from Estero. Want you to like and share and subscribe if you're seeing this on YouTube. We appreciate everybody's time, and have a great day and happy investing.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.